To succeed in your mission, you must have a single-minded devotion to your goal. Hello all, from this inspirational quote by Dr. Abdul Kalam. Today we will be discussing the concept of countercurrent with countercurrent multiplier in detail. This will be discussed under the following objectives. Now, as you all know that the kidney has got a tremendous ability to concentrate urine from values very low to 50 milliosmoles per liter to values very high, that is 1400 milliosmoles per liter. And this is in accordance with the maintenance of volume homeostasis, especially when the body is under water deficient conditions. So we can see that as GFR is always 180 liters per day. And normally the volume of urine formed is about 1 to 1.5 liters per day. We can understand that kidney is trying to reabsorb large quantities of water, thus concentrating the urine. And this urine osmolarity can thus be taken as an indicator of the kidney's concentration and diluting abilities. Now this chart can reveal it more clearly that under all conditions GFR is remaining same. But when the body is water deficient and large amount of ADH is being released, in this situation, the amount of water absorbed is high enough and the urine concentration is very high. On the other hand, when the conditions of the body are volume overloaded, the body tries to eliminate water, and under such conditions, though the GFR is remaining same, percentage of water reabsorbed is very little and the amount of urine formed is very high with a very low osmolarity. Alright, now this question will come to our mind that how the kidney is trying to concentrate the urine. For this, two important feedback control systems are working, and they include the working of the antidiuretic hormone. I have been talking about ADH several times, but we will be more interested today in discussing the generation of hyperosmotic medullary interstitium, which is definitely a very powerful driving force to create hyperosmotic medulla and to absorb water. Now the two important loop of Henle and the collecting duct are the two important segments of the nephrons which are functioning for regulating the concentrating ability of the urine. So that means that ADH performs its function by increasing the permeability of the tubular segments for water. ADH is functioning here to increase the permeability of the water, but the water will move out only when the surrounding medullary interstitium, is hyperosmotic. So generation of this hyperosmotic medullary interstitium is very important to enforce the osmotic drive of water out from the lumen into the interstitium so that this urine can be concentrated. So how this medullary interstitium is maintained and hyperosmolarity is created here is the sole function of countercurrent mechanism. It is the sole function of countercurrent mechanism. Now this countercurrent mechanism is operating in kidneys at two levels. The countercurrent mechanism is operating at the level of the loop of Henle and it is operating at the level of the vasa recta. Now when I am telling you countercurrent, first let me be clear what the word countercurrent means. Countercurrent basically refers to a system of flow in two tubes, and the flow in the two tubes is parallel to each other, it is counter to each other, and the flow is in close proximity to each other. So that means for the countercurrent mechanism, the requirements includes the presence of two tubes, the direction of flow in two tubes should be opposite and the two tubes should be in close proximity to each other. So all these three conditions are fulfilled by the descending limb of the loop of Henle and the ascending limb of the loop of Henle. So we can say loop of Henle is functioning as one counter current system, and the descending limb and the ascending limb of the vasa recta is again functioning as the other counter current system. So this vasa recta and the limbs of the loop of Henle, these are the two counter current mechanism which efficiently maintains the counter current system in our body. Now the mechanism of counter current system was first studied by Gottschalk and it was later described in details by the Werner Kuhn. Now they described it as a pump. Counter current mechanism is described as a pump which is expending energy to create a osmotic gradient. Now therefore they said that for the functioning of the pump there are three, for the counter current mechanism there are three basic requirements. First is the presence of a pump. Second is the mechanism of equilibration of the osmotic gradients. And third is the presence of the shifting of the columns of water. So he said that with the presence of an active pump, with the presence of an equilibrating system which equilibrates the osmotic gradient and the shifting of the water columns, a counter current mechanism can function efficiently. Okay, now we will try to move into the details of the counter current mechanism. But before that, I would like to mention this thing. Many of you don't know the counter current mechanism is operating under two limbs. The two limbs are the counter current multiplier and the counter current exchanger. So that means counter current mechanism includes counter current multiplier and the counter current exchanger. Counter current multiplier is basically the role played by the descending limb of the loop of Henle and the ascending limb of the loop of Henle. And why it is known as multiplier? It is known as multiplier because its major role is to multiply medullary hyperosmolarity to such an extent that the medullary osmolarity increases to a sufficient degree. So that is why we can say that the counter current mechanism is trying to generate the medullary hyperosmolarity. On the other hand, peritubular capillaries like vasa recta behaves as counter current exchanger. Their function is basically to maintain the medullary hyperosmolarity. And generation of medullary hyperosmolarity is done by the counter current multiplier. This is the basic difference between the two, and everybody should remember that multiplier is loop of Henle, exchanger is vasa recta. Multiplier functions to generate, to create the hyperosmolar environment in the medulla, and to maintain medullary hyperosmolarity, vasa recta is functioning so that the solute might not get washed away from the medullary interstitium. Now, just discussing now the counter current multiplier. The counter current multiplier requires these important four essential steps to function as a counter current mechanism. We will be discussing the steps one by one. Now, to understand any mechanism, we have to consider a hypothetical situation. That means we have to catch the mechanism from one particular point, because only then we are able to understand any mechanism. So to understand the counter current mechanism, we are assuming a situation when there is flow of tubular fluid from the proximal convoluted tubule into the descending limb of Henle, and the osmolarity of the fluid, as you all know, in the proximal tubule is 300 milliosmol. Alright, now this water which is flowing into the descending limb and moving up to the ascending limb is initially having osmolarity all around 300 milliosmol. Remember, this is a hypothetical situation which we are creating. Actually, there is no situation like this. This is just to make the mechanism clear to you. So, okay, now first of all we will discuss the step 1, which is known as the single effect. A very interesting Viva question. What is single effect? As I told you that we are considering a situation where initially the osmolarity of the entire tubular fluid is somewhere around 300 milliosmol. Now, as the fluid which was 300 milliosmol reaches the thick ascending portions of the loop of Henle, there it is encountered by the very important pump which I have been discussing several times, that is sodium 2 chloride potassium pump. Now this thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle, with the ability of this pump, will pump out sodium 2 chloride and 2 potassium from the tubular lumen into the medullary interstitium. Now the capability of this pump is maximum up to it generate a gradient of about 200 milliosmoles between the fluid in the medullary interstitium and the tubular fluid. So that means with its maximum working capacity, this pump can create a difference on either side of the tubular membrane, a difference of about 200 milliosmoles. So, by the time the fluid reaches the thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle, it is acted upon by this pump, thus creating a osmolarity difference of 200 milliosmol between the tubular fluid and the interstitial fluid. This effect is known as single effect, because this one single effect is the major driving force which will change the pattern of the hyperosmolarity in the medulla. This single effect will entirely change the medullary hyperosmolarity, and therefore this is known as the single effect. And we all know that as the thick ascending limb of Henle is virtually impermeable to water, therefore the movement of the solute out from this portion into the medullary interstitium is not accompanied by any outflow of water. So that means medulla receives some solutes from the tubular lumen, thus increasing its osmolarity, which was initially 300 has increased to 400, with a difference between the lumen and the medulla of somewhere around 200 milliosmoles. So remember, there will always be a difference of 200 milliosmol between the thick ascending limb fluid and the medullary interstitium. Now, this single effect is not only sufficient to maintain and to create a medulla which is very hyperosmotic to 1200 milliosmoles. So now this step is followed by many other steps which add up to the single effect, and the further steps are known as the multiplication of the single effect. So we will be discussing about the multiplications of the single effect. Now what happens? With a concentration gradient of 400 milliosmol in the medullary interstitium, this interstitium medulla osmolarity will drive the water from the descending limb of the loop of Henle, because descending limb of loop of Henle is highly permeable to water. So, because of the increasing osmolarity in the medulla, the solutes have collected in the medulla. These solutes will drive out water from the descending limb of the loop of Henle, as a result of which the osmolarity, which was 300 initially, will increase to somewhere around 400, so as to equilibrate the fluid osmolarity in the descending limb as well as in the medullary interstitium. Okay, so that means the descending limb of the loop of Henle will come in an equilibrium with the medullary interstitial fluid in terms of osmolarity, and the fluid the water will move out from the descending limb until a situation of equilibrium between the two fluids is established. So that means there is an equilibrium in osmolarity between the fluid of the descending limb and the medullary interstitium, and this equilibrium is generated because of the initial pump which has deposited solutes in the interstitium, and this interstitium is now driving water out of the descending limb of the loop of Henle. So as a result of which, what happened, the fluid which was received in the descending limb has initially osmolarity of 300 milliosmol, but as it will pass down, the water will move out of the descending limb to equilibrate itself with the medullary interstitial osmolarity, and in this process, finally, as the fluid reaches the loop of Henle's vent, that is the hairpin bend, the osmolarity of the fluid in this segment will go on increasing. And now what will happen? Now the ascending limb of the loop of Henle will receive the fluid which is more osmolar than the previous fluid. Alright, so now moving on to the step 3, further multiplication of the single effect. The osmolarity which has increased to 400 in the descending limb. Now this fluid is moving on to the ascending limb side, and again there is operation of the sodium potassium chloride pump, which will again keep on pumping out solutes from the ascending thick limb into the tubular lumen, thus maintaining a gradient of about 200 milliosmoles. So further concentration of the interstitium will occur and further dilution of the fluid in the ascending limb of the loop of Henle will occur. So with the gradual multiplication, what is happening? The fluid in this portion is becoming hypoosmolar, but with the continuous deposition of solutes in the medullary interstitium, this portion is becoming more osmolar, and this more osmolarity will drive out more amount of water from the descending limb, so as to bring the fluid in the two segments in equilibrium with each other, because this portion is highly permeable to water. So in all these steps will ultimately keep on increasing the medullary interstitial osmolarity. It will increase the osmolarity of the fluid in the descending limb of the loop of Henle as it will move down towards the hairpin bend, and the continuous movement of solutes out of the ascending limb will keep on decreasing the osmolarity of the fluid, which will leave the ascending portions of the loop of Henle. And further, step 4 is showing that as the continuous increase in the osmolarity in the descending limb, this fluid with more osmolarity will keep on moving. This is known as the axial shift of the water, which will keep on moving towards the thick portions of the ascending limb with the continuous activity of the pump. Same thing is happening again and again, and we can see with all these steps occurring again and again, there is further rise in the osmolarity of the interstitium, as well as there is increase in the osmolarity in the hairpin bend of the nephron. So these multiplication of these steps repeatedly again and again leads to continuous inflow of the solute into the medulla, along with the increasing hyperosmolarity in the medulla and the maintenance of the same hyperosmolar state in the descending limb of the loop of Henle. Now eventually increasing the medullary hyperosmolarity to 1200 milliosmol and decreasing the osmolarity of the fluid which is leaving the descending limb of the loop of Henle. This will finally produce a very concentrated medullary hyperosmolarity, and these steps will keep on repeating again and again till finally medullary osmolarity reaches 1200 milliosmoles. So this process is known as the counter current multiplier, and the fluid which will now leave the ascending limb of the loop of Henle to enter the distal tubule will become hypotonic with a concentration of somewhere around 100 milliosmoles per liter. So as the fluid will reach the hypoosmotic fluid will reach the collecting duct, there it will be acted upon by the ADH. So ADH is a hormone which is acting on the collecting duct and the distal portions of the nephrons to increase the permeability of these portions to water. Now these water will be osmotically driven into the medullary interstitium. So as you can see here, 100 is the osmolarity of the fluid as it is leaving the thick ascending portions of the loop of Henle, and now there is continuous absorption of water which will occur across the cortical and the medullary collecting duct, all under the effect of ADH, and with the continuous absorption of water into the medullary interstitium, the urine will ultimately become hyperosmotic if the urine concentrating ability is running to its maximum and the body is under water deficient states. Now at this juncture, I would like to emphasize the role of urea. We all know that medullary hyperosmolarity is because of the deposition of solutes primarily by the sodium, but there is some role of urea also which increases the medullary hyperosmolarity. Now normally we know that 40 to 50% of urea is contributing to development of the medullary hyperosmolarity, and as the urea is filtered across the glomerulus, about 40 to 50% of the urea is reabsorbed in the initial portions, that is in the proximal tubular segments of the renal tubule. So basically there is reabsorption of the urea in the proximal convoluted tubule, but as the urea flows down through the thin loop of the thick segment of the loop of Henle, urea is secreted back. So that means the urea which was initially absorbed from the tubular lumen is secreted back in the thin portions of the loop of Henle. But as the urea moves to the ascending portions of the loop of Henle plus the distal tubule and the cortical collecting duct, these segments remain totally impermeable to urea. So the point to remember here that initially there is reabsorption of urea in the proximal tubule up to 50%, then it is secreted back in the thin segment of the loop of Henle, but further there is no processing of urea till it reaches the inner medullary collecting duct, because rest of the segments are more or less impermeable to urea. Now, very important to remember that urea is reabsorbed only from the inner medullary collecting duct, and this is happening under the ADH, effects of ADH, which increases the permeability to urea for inner medullary connecting duct only, and not any other segment. And this is occurring because of the presence of a transporter which is known as UT-A1 to A4. There are 4 transporter UT-A1 to A4 and specially acting on the inner medullary collecting duct are UT-A1. Now in the loop of Henle, in the thin descending limb of the loop of Henle, there is secretion of the urea from the interstitium. Secretion means urea from the interstitium is secreted back into the lumen by facilitated diffusion using UT-A2 transporters. The remaining segments remain more or less impermeable to urea. Moving further finally to the inner medullary collecting duct, which is now reabsorbing back urea by facilitated diffusion, and the transporter which is functioning here is UT-A1, which is sensitive to ADH, and in the presence of ADH, urea moves from the tubular lumen and gets collected in the renal interstitium. People on high protein diet has the ability to concentrate their urine better, because these people will finally produce urea as the metabolic waste product, and as a result of which more urea will be available to be reabsorbed back from the urine into the medullary interstitium, and the ability to concentrate urine will be high. I hope you are clear with this topic of countercurrent mechanism, including multiplier as well as the role of urea. Thank you for your patience listening. Take care. Bye.